Hello, and welcome back to Circle and Faith. I'm your host, Christine Barella, and I'm just delighted that you're joining me today. And if this is your first time tuning in, I just want to welcome you to a community of women where we believe in faith, resilience, and God's unfailing love. And if you're a returning listener or viewer, I just want to thank you so much for allowing me to walk alongside of you and allowing me to walk alongside of you in this faith journey that we're doing in this life. And today, I know you're going to be super excited to hear our most amazing guest today. So, Karen Wingate, thank you so much for being here today.
Thank you for having me.
Yes, of course, my pleasure. And before we dive in, Karen has, oh my gosh, so many amazing God stories. I want to share just a little bit about Karen. So I'm going to make sure I don't forget anything. So I'm going to read her bio to everybody. So Karen Wingate is a speaker, a Bible study leader, and author of 10 books, including the award-winning book With Fresh Eyes, 60 Insights into the Miraculously Ordinary from a Woman Born Blind. As someone born with a severe visual impairment who experienced better than ever eyesight in midlife, Karen shares with her audiences how through Jesus Christ, they too can take a fresh look at life and experience renewed hope and a better than ever life that God has waiting for each one of us. And so, just an amazing journey that you've been on, Karen. And I'm so excited you're going to share with us today. But before we dive in, why don't you just share just a little bit, maybe personally, about your life? What would you like us to know about you?
Well, I am right now. I'm at the other end of my career that my husband retired 5 years ago, and so we're supposed to be living the easy life right now. Haha. Um, but we're living in southern Arizona where we don't have to worry about snow and mowing grass and picking up leaves. So we think that's just absolutely wonderful.
Mhm.
And I spend my time still writing and speaking, and my husband supports me with the technology. And I enjoy reading. I enjoy making homemade bread. I make baby blankets for a pregnancy care center and am involved in teaching a neighborhood Bible study. So life is full and busy right now, and we're just really enjoying seeing what God does each day.
Yeah, yeah, that's amazing. And I believe you have two daughters, right?
I do, and they currently both live overseas, including two adorable grandchildren, and so that's a little tough on this grandma's heart.
Yeah.
But one girl is in the military, and the other is serving in Bible translation, and so we know they're doing good things, and the Lord is working through them, and so that sort of helps soften the missing them so much.
Yes, for sure. Yeah, so first, thank you, your daughter, for serving in our country in the military, but then also your other daughter serving for Kingdom Impact and really translating Bible so all the world can hear the amazing news of Jesus Christ and what he can do for them. So thank you for your daughters doing that. That's definitely a calling and a sacrifice for you and your husband having them so far away. So thank you to you guys as too, knowing it's God's call. So, how about if we just jump right in? And what story would you like to share with us today, Karen?
Well, I'm sure your listeners were piqued by your comment, your mere mentioning of my book of From a Woman Born Blind. Say what? Well, let me start there. I was born totally blind. I probably could see nothing more than what you would see if you were looking through an industrial strength shower curtain, just a fog, a splash of color. And doctors knew that I needed to get light on the optic nerve as quickly as possible. And this was back in the 1960s when uh, medical technology was not as advanced. So they waited until I was 10 months. They didn't think they could solve the problem. The presenting problem was congenital cataracts, and they didn't think they could actually remove the cataracts like would be done today. And so I went through a series of 8 childhood surgeries where they tried to break up the cataracts and were partially successful. They did get light on the optic nerve. My vision was raised to a higher level where I was considered functionally legally blind with high-powered bifocals. I could read if I got books within 3 inches of my face. I could see most things if they were at arm's length, but anything beyond that, was my brain had to fill in. This was also back in the time where I where there was no special education in the public schools. And my mother refused to send me to the blind school because she didn't want me to be labeled as blind. She wanted me to grow up with that idea that I can see and to use as much vision as I can.
Mhm.
And for the first 3 years, it didn't matter so much. The seats were close to the board, the print was large, but then in fourth grade, I really began to struggle, and I realized that I was different from other children, and other children began realizing that I was different as well. And there was a time of bullying, of ostracizing, um, and I think at that point I was just began really searching for where's my place? Why does, why was I made this way? Why is God allowing me to have bad vision? And I tell in my book about how I won after my final surgery when the doctor said, "We're done, we can't do anything more," that I prayed, God, please let me see, help me see, give me my eyesight. And I hadn't told anybody I was doing this, but all summer of my ninth year, I prayed that prayer. Nothing happened, and I don't know where I got this, but I realized later that it's so significant um, to the rest of my life. I said, "Okay, God, if you're not going to heal my eyes, would you just help me cope? Help me
Hmm.
cope with what I have."
So this was when you were 9 years old.
Yes.
So yeah, so you prayed for vision, but then you prayed, help me cope at 9 years old. What a precious prayer.
And I had not even accepted or put my faith in Jesus Christ yet.
Mm.
That came about 2 years later, and I think I just became so um, fed up with myself. And I even after I prayed that prayer, Christine, I went through a terrible year of school where there was just even more bullying. I mean, so things actually got worse.
Mm.
And then in fifth grade, I had a teacher who saw my needs and started to get some large print textbooks for me and started making some private accommodations within the classroom. But still, I just was searching for something. And so then it was when I was 11 that I realized that I needed to surrender it all. I needed to surrender everything to Jesus Christ.
Mm.
And I very poignantly remember that when I was about to be baptized, my pastor's wife said, "You want me to hold your glasses for you?" And again, this where did this come from? It must have been the Holy Spirit guiding my thinking because I said to her, "No, if I'm going to give myself to Jesus, I'm going to give him all of me, even my bad eyesight."
Mhm. Oh, that's awesome. I just want to back up just a little bit because when you said you were 9 and then you prayed that prayer for vision and then for God to help you if He's not going to give you vision, that it got worse that next year. And many times when we do cry out to God and give ourselves fully to Him, we get spiritually attacked by the evil one. He makes it worse because he doesn't want us to believe that God is going to be there for us. And so I just wanted to bring that to light because that happens, I think, a lot more than we recognize when we want to grow closer to the Lord or He's calling us to do something. And then, man, things start happening in our family, in our marriage, at our work that we're just like, what in the world? And it sidetracks us from going forward with what we prayed for. So I just want to thank you for sharing that when you were 9 that things got worse because that's what Satan does. He tries to trip us up.
Yes, and we just have to, I look back, Christine, and I think that's what drove me into the arms of the Savior. I mean, my mother even put me into counseling at the end of the year. Things got that bad. And that did set in motion some things for the adults to see, hey, this child has a problem. Let's do some things to move her forward. But still, it was just that recognition that I can't do this by myself. And I'd had that foundational teaching through my mother's faith and through my church that I knew that God was the answer. But that's what drove me to personally say, God, I need you. I cannot do this by myself. I need your saving grace.
Yeah, and then he came through for you, right? I'm sure it wasn't all like, oh, okay, then everything was great from 11 on, right?
Oh, no, not at all. It was still a struggle. There was still no special education programs. I was still in public school, still was made fun of by kids. But again, while my mother believed in Christ, we were that kind of family where we didn't talk openly about a personal relationship with Jesus. We didn't talk openly about prayer, but as I started getting into some of my situations, and I was very stubborn. I was the blind kid that would ride down the street on a bicycle, a busy street. I can't see, but I'm doing this. And so, I'd go and off and do these crazy things, get myself into trouble, and then, oh, hey, God, would you help me out here? But, nobody told me that God was the one that you could go to. Seeing God is that, having that personal interest in a 13-year-old girl that's doing stupid things.
Mhm.
Um, And I learned that God does care. He does care about those little things in life from seemingly insignificant people because he answered some of those prayers in just amazing ways.
Mhm.
I by the time I was 19, I'd love to travel. I was off traveling by myself and I got in an airport one time and I couldn't find the bathroom. And so I prayed, God help me find a bathroom. And, I'm the girl that can't even read signs in an airport. And
And you
then,
you were traveling at 19 by yourself.
yeah.
Wow. Wow. That shows though that your mom, although not talking about faith, had faith, knowing that God was going to have you.
Oh, yes. I mean, I look back and I can't believe she let me do some of those things.
Yeah.
But she was just, bound and determined to let me forge my own path.
Right,
And
right.
yeah, she must have had a lot of faith in God to let
Mhm.
me do those things.
Yeah.
But anyway, back to the bathroom. 2 minutes later, I look to my side and there's a big sign that says ladies.
Wow.
And, again, in my young mind, I made that connection that I prayed, God answered.
Mhm.
And I prayed about something so simplistic,
Right.
and He delivered.
Right.
That's the kind of God we have. He
Yes.
cares about those tiny moments in our lives, and
Mhm.
He wants us to come into Him and to come to Him and say, I can't do this by myself. I need your partnership. I want to do life with you,
Mhm.
every little bit of life.
Right, absolutely. And thank you for that because I think sometimes we try to get through the little things in life when he is interested in the little things in life and wants to engage with us throughout the entire day, not just in the morning in our quiet time, not just on Sunday, not just before we go to bed for our little prayers, but he truly wants to be a part of every minute, every second. I kind of see him just like waiting right here next to me. Christina, are you going to ask me? Christina, are you going to ask me? Are you going to ask me? So I've been really trying to be in tune with that
Well,
all
and
throughout the day.
And we need that backdrop of those little things to build our faith, because if we have this running record of God's faithfulness in these little matters, it's going to be easier to trust Him in the bigger things. And there's even a Bible verse that talks about that. He that is faithful in that which is least is faithful also in much.
Yes, yes, yes. Okay, so when you're 19, where did you travel? I'm just curious.
Well, my first big adventure was traveling to Albuquerque, New Mexico to attend a seminar with some family friends. Then I traveled to visit my sister where she was attending college. And then at age 24, after I grad no 23, after I graduated from college, I moved from Tucson, Arizona to Cincinnati, Ohio to attend graduate school. And that was a major leap of faith because I'd lived in Tucson all my life. And going to Ohio is like going to a foreign country. I
Hmm.
discovered the color green.
Right, right. You're like green and snow.
No.
So you went to college. Did you have like any support in college to help you? Did you learn how to read Braille or how did you manage all that?
By then, special education had become more common,
Right.
and I never learned Braille. But by then, the technology was coming out. They had these things called CCTVs, which is a closed circuit television that you put a book underneath and it magnifies it.
Oh.
They also had audiobooks and large print books. Um, Teachers were more aware of the needs of visually impaired students, and so they would, make print out handouts in larger print, or they some of my teachers would copy off what they wrote on the board onto a printed page for me. Um, I became very adept at listening. As the teacher was writing on the board, the teacher would make sure they said what was on the board, and I had a photographic memory that I could listen and retain what they had said.
Wow, that truly is a gift to be able to hear and remember everything.
Well, necessity is the mother of invention.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah. So, okay, well, that's awesome. And then you're going to go on to graduate school. Wow.
I actually went to seminary, and
Okay.
it was a small college and they didn't have the accommodations that a large university would have. And I understood later that the faculty got together and said, oh dear, we've got this visually impaired woman coming to a mostly male seminary. But she's visually impaired. We don't want to discourage her, but we just don't think she's going to be successful.
Mm.
Um, and the first week I was there, I put out a plea for readers, and I had several students reading my textbooks to me,
Wow.
and that's how I pulled through. It was stubbornness with a lot of prayer that got me through to get my degree.
Yeah. And God answered by giving you people who wanted to help you.
Oh,
That's
it was a
what it
rich
does.
experience. Yeah.
Yeah. So a community. And so, and that you needed that community at that time. And so, for our viewers and listeners right now, if you're not in a community of women, I would strongly recommend that. And if you've had a community and you don't, because look, you needed a community, God answered your prayer and got you through. And that's what community can do for us in our different seasons of life, getting us through the good times and the not so good times. He has designed us to be in relationship with others and helping each other. So we can also help others, not just waiting for people to help us, but we also need to be the hands and feet of Jesus, like those individuals at your university were for you.
Yes, that's a really good point. I think we get so individual minded, and independently minded that I really think that is God's plan, that we be in community and that together we are strong and we each add what we have to make the plan work.
Yeah, yeah, agree, 100%. Okay, so you are in seminary and you graduate from seminary. And so where does God call you next?
Well, I had the idea that I wanted to go on the mission field and realized that I had some baggage in my life and the whole vision thing, was an issue and went through a lot of soul searching and in the meantime I'm falling in love with a man. Um, so I I did some backtracking. I met Jack, my husband, and we married in the middle of my seminary years.
Okay.
And he at first wanted to go into higher education, but he realized that he needed some pastoral experience. So we committed ourselves to serving in the small local church, and that's where we ended up for the next 35 years. Was ministry to small churches in a number of states. In the meantime, I I found that I loved to write, and I got an opportunity through the seminary to start working in uh, writing curriculum, which was the perfect job for me because I could do it at home. I didn't have to rely on public transportation or getting a job elsewhere, and so and it was a job that I could carry with me. So for the next 25 years, I worked in writing curriculum for national publishing companies. And what was so incredible was that this is the years that the computer was making tremendous advances, and every time my needs became too much for the job that I had, computers would take this big leap forward, and I would be able to continue doing my job. I don't think that I could do what I do without the computer. It's just been such a huge blessing, in spite of the technology glitches.
Right, right, right. Well, so again, God met you where you were at. You had a desire to be on the mission field. So you marry a man that serves in the church, which then you're on a mission field, but we all are on a mission field anyway. But he really came through for you again and allowed you to be able to work from home and be successful in being able to contribute to what you were wanting to do. So that's amazing.
And he had us in the right spot. Um, we had about four or five different ministries and small churches all around the nation. But, I look back and we were in the right place at the right time for each of those times. When our girls were in elementary school, God had us in a small community where I could walk everywhere. My girls got great education. Um, I had the first of my two major eye surgeries in Ohio. We had been in North Carolina, and Jack was fired from his ministry, which was just really heart-wrenching. And I mean, we thought God had called us to that ministry, and yet here we were pushed out. And so our next ministry was in Ohio. But that's the place where this doctor was who had developed this beta prototype surgery for one of my many eye conditions. And we were able to connect with him for that first major eye surgery that I had. And so, I've just seen how God has carried us along
Mhm.
all through those years and just had what we thought was bad. God had us at just the right spot where he wanted us to be.
Right, right. And what a great perspective. But because always trying to remember his ways are better and higher than our ways. But in the midst of it, I'm sure when your husband was fired, you were probably thinking, what? Like, how could this happen? Like, he's a good man. He's a good, follower of Christ. Like, what in the world? But God had a different plan. He had a higher way. And because I'm sure then he gave your husband an amazing job when you moved back to Ohio.
Yes, yes. We've seen fruit all along and we've seen the word spread and we've seen lives changed. And, so in hindsight now, as we look back over those 35 years, God knew exactly what he was doing.
Yep. Yes, he always does. And so when you say that was one of many surgeries, so how many surgeries did you have, and did you get eyesight back a little each time, or kind of walk us through that to where your vision is today?
Okay, I had the 8 childhood surgeries that tried to help the congenital cataracts, and in some ways that gave me some vision, but in other ways that caused damage to the eye structure. And so then in my mid 40s, I had this ninth surgery that was to help the way my eyes shake back and forth, and which is a disease called nystagmus.
Mhm.
That surgery helped some for about 5 years. It was such a brand new surgery, they didn't quite know that what they were doing. Now,
Mhm.
in the long term, they've realized that it may have helped initially, but most people revert back. And so, well, it gave me a little boost of vision and a little, um, I was better able to cope because my eyes didn't wiggle as so much. That started decreasing. So then in my mid 50s, I'm at high risk for a number of eye diseases because of just the compromised structure of my eyeballs. And I was
Mhm.
coping, I knew that someday I might lose the more vision. That's
Mhm.
just been a given in my life. It still is today, because of the nature of my eyesight. And I worried that something might change in my vision so bad I wouldn't be able to tell. And the day came that I thought some things were changing, that things didn't look right, but I guess I was too scared to say anything. I thought, well, maybe I'm just imagining it. Maybe if I just blink twice, it'll go away. Um, and finally, I had my regularly scheduled visit with my ophthalmologist, and I said something to her, and she said, well, you're at that age, and you're a woman. It could be dry eyes, but your eyesight is so fragile, we probably better make sure and have you checked by a specialist. And so I got an appointment within a couple of weeks, and the retina specialist found a small tear in my left eye. He said, but it looks old. Your eyes are so fragile. He said, I'm hesitant to do anything. Let's watch it for 3 months. And that was a little unnerving because I thought retina detachments were something serious. I didn't know the difference at the time between a small tear and a detachment.
Okay.
So we waited 3 months. 3 months later, things were definitely worse. Um, so he concurred that that was true, and it was sort of that situation of do nothing and lose your eyesight, do something and you might lose your eyesight.
All right. Wow. Wow. That's not very good odds either way.
And he said, we might be able to restore what you had. It might stay the same as it is now, it might be worse. He said, I don't know, but I will do the best I can. So I went in knowing the odds.
Right.
The night before um, surgery, my blessed ladies Bible study group got together and had a prayer meeting for me. Now, I come from a conservative church background. We don't do these things. Um, I had many women in my Bible study who refused to pray out loud. They're reserved. They're just shy about praying out loud.
Mhm.
20 women gathered that night, and every single one of them prayed for
Mm.
me. And I thought, if this is what happens, I'm happy. I was just so thrilled to see that spiritual step of faith those women were taking.
Right.
Um, and one of the women prayed, Lord, we pray that you will give Karen better than ever eyesight. And I thought to myself, honey, that's not happening. You don't know the extent of my eye problems. This has been a lifelong thing. We're going to be good to get back what I've lost. That's going to be the miracle.
Wait, you sound like Sarah in the Bible,
Oh, yeah, I was laughing.
right? Where she don't say, God, I'm not having a baby.
Yeah, that's right. This can't happen.
Yeah, but in your mind, I totally get why you thought that. You're thinking, bless her heart. But again, you just talked about a community of women, the importance of community. How them just praying for you, you were like, whatever happens, if this is just what came of it, this is a beautiful thing. Having people pray.
Yeah. And
Yeah.
I think that's so important. We get so fixated on the physical need that it's important to look at what God is doing on the spiritual level as well.
Hmm.
And, if he used my eyesight surgery to bring a community of 20 women together to pray for a common cause, wow,
Exactly.
wow,
Yep.
what a blessing.
Yeah.
That's something I had been working on for 6 years with those women.
Hmm. Wow, that's amazing. So God answered again, but he answers in a big way. Okay, so they pray over you the night before you have your surgery. So then you go into your surgery.
The surgery is done under local anesthesia because the eyes are fragile and they don't want you forgive me, they don't want you vomiting
Right.
after surgery from the anesthesia because that would put pressure on the eyeballs. And so, um, I felt no pain, but it was not comfortable. It was disconcerting. I heard all the chatter in the operating room. I heard the doctor saying, "Give me a bigger drill bit for my ultrasound drill." I'm going, what? What are you doing in there?
Exactly.
And so I have now resorted to um, praying for people, repeating Bible passages, um, singing songs in my head, thinking about Sabino Canyon in Arizona, my beautiful spots, anything to try to block out what I'm, experiencing. And in
Mhm.
the 2/3 through what seems like a long surgery, the doctor says to me, Mrs. Wingate, I usually don't like to guarantee these kind of things, but I think you're going to have better than ever eyesight.
Oh my goodness. Exactly what your friend prayed.
Exactly.
Wow.
And I lay on that gurney and I thought, what does that look like? Because remember, I have been legally blind all my life for 55 years.
Mhm.
And then for the rest of the surgery, I worshiped a God who could do such a thing to bring sight to the blind after decades.
Right.
And of course, I wondered, what am I going to be able to see? How much better is it going to be? Is
Right.
it going to be a complete healing? Well, it was only one eye, but and there's still multiple issues. How much? And it took 6 weeks to finally find out how much I was going to get. If numbers mean anything to your listeners, I started at 2,200, which is the level for legal blindness. To date,
Okay.
my eyesight is 20/80 in that one eye.
Wow. Wow. But you had to wait 6 weeks again. Oh, the Lord's timing. He just wants us to be patient, right?
Oh my. Well, and part two of those weeks for someone with a retina surgery, you have to spend those 2 weeks face down
Wow.
and not moving to allow the eye to heal properly. Um, and so that was hard. I was not in pain, but it was just uncomfortable lying that way, and of course, not being able to do anything. But the hope of being able to see better kept me glued to that bed. And
Yes.
I think of that scripture that talks about um, our light and momentary afflictions are nothing compared to the eternal weight of glory.
Mm.
That's what keeps us, that's what can keep us in the game today, no matter what is happening, is that hope of heaven where we will have better than ever in heaven. And we
Yes.
can endure what's happening here because we know we've got something better coming for us.
Yes, absolutely. Keeping our eyes fixed on heaven, on the kingdom,
Yes,
which I
yes.
know is hard. It's hard to do in the world in which we live, that's for sure. Okay, so I think everyone's wondering. So you do have 20/80, but really, what does that mean? Like, what could you, when you finally realized that you had this eyesight, like, how did you feel? What's the first thing you saw? And what you laugh? What is that?
Well, you think about a third grader that gets their first pair of glasses and they see trees on leaves. They can read the blackboard, and I spent a lot of time wondering what's going to be the first thing. And so I love to tell this story in my speaking. I'm also a normal woman and I'm wondering what 2 weeks flat on my face has done to my weight. And so and I also realized that my glasses prescription is changing, and so my current prescription's not doing me any good. So after 6 weeks, I walk into the bathroom, and now how have I read the bathroom scale before? I usually have to bend down on my knees or bend over double to try to read the numbers, and then I guess on the low side because I'm a woman, and that's what we do. So I get on the scales and I bend over and everything's a blur. Okay, it's not time yet. Gotta wait for that new pair of glasses. And so I stood up, I gave I stood up normal like everybody else does, and I looked down at the scale one more time and I could read the numbers perfectly.
Oh, wow.
So the
Hopefully what
first
you
thing
wanted to
I could
see.
see was the bathroom scale.
Wow. Were you delighted or were you like, darn, I gotta start walking?
Oh, I
You
don't
just
even
delighted
remember
you
what
could
I weighed. It
matter,
didn't even
right?
matter.
Didn't matter. You just were delighted that you could read that standing.
Oh, yes. I ran through the house screaming, I can see. And I went to my computer and I got on Facebook. Of course, people have been following my journey up to this point, and I said, guess what I saw today? I saw the bathroom scales, and people said, well, that's great, I think.
Yeah, I think that's good. You're like, it doesn't matter. Oh my gosh, what a joyous feeling. And he answered the prayer of a 9-year-old, but in his timing.
In his timing, 50 years, well, let's see, 9 to 55, for
Yeah.
over 40 years later.
Right. Yeah. But he did answer your prayer. Wow.
And I can look back and see many reasons why he waited that long.
Yeah.
He wanted me to learn to depend utterly on him. He also wanted me to gather an audience that could hear my story when I would be ready to tell it.
That's right. That's right. For kingdom purpose. And also, the many lives that you have touched just living your life blind, legally blind.
Right, because
Encouragement
so
to
many
others.
people saw me and how I lived.
Yeah, and you lived like of somebody that had sight. And so you inspired probably so many people, thousands of people that you don't even know, that they didn't even tell you, right? So God definitely used your journey because he knew number one, Karen, I know I can rely on you. You are a good and faithful servant, and I'm going to give you more and more each day, each year. And now look, he's given you a platform to share about our Lord and Savior Jesus Christ to thousands of people. It's amazing. So
Yeah.
thank you for being such a good and faithful servant, Karen.
Oh, thank you.
Yes, yes. Wow. And so the other thing, so your book is amazing. I've read your book and just I'll put all the books in the show notes, but also that book, wow, was just beautiful, and it really walks for me personally walks me through your life of what you started to see and how you reflected on it, and then how to get us to look through our lens. And how what you saw for the first time with your sight, how we can reflect on our life and have new sight about our own circumstances, which is what I love about the last book that you wrote, I believe.
Well, and that's been the exciting part of this journey is that people have said to me, we take so much for granted. And so, not only did God give me new eyesight, but then he has opened the eyes of the spirits of so many people to stop and take a look. When I go out and I say, wow, look at that great sunset tonight, people go, oh, there's a sunset? Oh, and I talk about, isn't God so lavish and how he splashes the sunset across the skies? Well, yeah, we never thought about that before. And now I have people sending me sunset pictures saying, "Wow, check this out," or just we started a whole new um, Facebook group that we first called What I Saw Today, but now we've changed it to What I Saw God Do Today. But people will post pictures or tell stories of what they see God doing, of what they see in God's creation. And we're able to share together in community, just how wonderful God is, how lavish He is with His creation, how extraordinarily good He is every
Yes.
single day.
Gosh, I love that. And I didn't realize you had a Facebook, so I'm joining that because that really helps us stay focused on the goodness of God. And I think we all need to, especially, in the world in which we're living in, end times seem to be coming sooner than later, just really staying focused on the goodness of God instead of the bad that's going on in the world. Well, it'll keep us joyful and in the midst of serving Him in the way that He wants us to serve Him and listen to His call. Yeah,
Yes.
love that. I love that. Wow, what an amazing story. I'm so honored that you were willing to share it with us. Um, is there anything else, like before we kind of sign off, is there anything else that you would like to share with those that are watching or listening?
I think I think the big message that I want to share with people is just that idea that God can do anything. He can because he is God.
Mhm.
And we need to just cling to that. And yeah, maybe he's not doing it right now when you want it or in the way you want it, but don't give up on God. He will bring about his perfect will in his perfect time. And as God, he has the power to do absolutely anything in your life better than you have ever imagined.
Mhm. Yeah, wow, that is incredible advice. Incredible advice. And what I'd like to take from your story, though, not just that, but then you continued to step forward and live your life. You didn't close yourself in your house and confine yourself. You truly said, okay, God, help me live this life out that you've given to me. And you moved forward and you allowed Him to work through you when it was time, His timing. So I want to encourage women too to continue to find community so they can encourage you to keep stepping every day, no matter what you're going through, because He will take you to the other side and really bless you, whether He answers that final prayer or He grows you in order to accept what He has given to you. Like it's a journey.
Yes.
Yeah, but I love that. He is our mighty God and He can work amazing miracles. I love that. Yeah. So, Karen, I want to thank you so much again. And again, I'm going to put all the information in the show notes because I think that book is simply amazing. And also your Facebook group. I think that would really be beneficial for a lot of women.
That's wonderful. That'd be great.
Yes, yes. So we can learn from each other, we can inspire each other. And I just want to thank the listeners and viewers for joining us again today. And if you need prayer, go ahead and DM me. You can find me on Instagram and Circle in Faith, and I'm more than happy to pray for you. I love to pray for others. And just, I hope this story inspired you to know that God is for you always, no matter what. So thank you, Karen, and we'll see everybody later. Bye-bye now.